Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Welcome once again. We are here for software engineering video lectures for BCA-403, and today we will be seeing is Unit 3 of Block 2, which is all about user acceptance testing and implementation planning. Let us see what we will be learning through this unit. We will be learning is user acceptance testing, what is UAT, that is user acceptance testing, and what is quantified UAT. Then we'll be studying Greybox testing, which is actually a mixture of black box and white box, which we have already studied in the previous unit, and we'll be seeing testing artifacts. Right. Let us start with the third unit. This is the introduction part. User acceptance appears as testing method which is done by client in order to certify system as per requirements with which it is agreed upon. Now what it says is, if you would understand just the terminology, user acceptance testing. So it says that if my user accept that this software is particularly okay and it is proper, then that is called as user acceptance, and when it tests for that, it is called as UAT, that is user acceptance testing. Alright, and it is actually based on the customer requirements that they would have levied before giving us the software for development. Alright, then it says such type of testing happens in final phase of testing before moving software application into business or production environment. So as the whole software, when it is developed up, alright, that whole software is being tested by my user, and this is the final phase of testing, and once my user gives a check mark that yes, this is proper software, after that only it turns up to a business product. Alright, so it comes at the final phase only. And the acceptance test can be thought of as a way to check previously defined contract which exists among developer and customer on particular track. It says that when we are about to sign with our customer, we get customer requirements. Alright, when we get the customer requirements, we plan out that how we will be fulfilling all these customer requirements and how we would be developing a particular software. So during that time we actually sign a contract. Alright, and that signing of contract says that we will be giving such product after maybe few months, and when we sign that contract, whether that contract, whatsoever we have written, whatsoever we have mentioned that we will be giving software with all this particular things, are all those things available with the software at the final phase? If yes, then that is called as user acceptance testing, and we pass through that. Alright. Moving of such acceptance tests will allow no change in requirement that happened in meantime, where everything needs to do to satisfy the customer. Now everything here is only to satisfy our customer. Now whatsoever my customer would have levied that I want such requirements, if we give all those requirements, alright, we fulfill with all those requirements of the customer, then it is said that we are satisfying our customers. So user acceptance testing basically it satisfies our customer with their own needs. Alright, whatever they wanted, we have given them the actual thing. Alright, it says that this is 3.2 of course. After the introduction, let us see the steps for user acceptance testing. Now it says that user acceptance testing has a particular step. Alright, it is a stepwise process through which you have to pass through, and when you reach the final step, then only you can say that you have qualified with the user acceptance testing. We'll come back to that. Let us see what are the steps. User acceptance testing is a final phase of software testing process. As said, it comes in the final phase. Alright, and where software users perform testing of software in order to handle the required work as per specifications. Now specifications are those which we would have got in the starting phase of the software development. So according to those listed specification, whether my project, my software is meeting all those specifications comes under that. Alright, and if all those specifications are met with, alright, then I say that I am in the final phase of my user acceptance testing. Alright, it says that such type of testing method is beta release or end user testing. Alright, it's you can say it is going to be a beta testing or a end user testing. We have already seen this in the previous unit of the same block, right. But before that, you know, I would still revise upon what is beta testing. Beta testing is something which is done by a set of or a group of people outside the organization. Alright, and end user testing is also one and the same. My end user who is going to use my product, alright, they will be testing on it. Alright, so this user acceptance testing is kind of a beta testing or an end user testing, alright, which finally performs web development process before installation of final software at the client side. So at the final stage before installation at the client side, I have to actually, you know, I have to give my product to my customer or my end users who is going to use it, or maybe group of people outside the organization who will be actually checking on this, you know, testing on this. Let us see, I hope you can see a diagram here. It says that there are various people outside the organization who is going to check on the system, right, who is going to check on my you know, on their system about my product, everything, and very, very sincerely they will keep on testing it, right. So that is user acceptance testing. It is normally visualized that acceptance testing is required as developer's code software which depends on requirements document serves as reference, which actually will not serve as client requirement. So it says that it is going to be a developer's code software, alright. So whatever my developer has done, the coding of that software, it serves as, you know, a documentary for my user, which will say that yes, this particular code will serve this particular thing, and whether that particular thing is being actually analyzed, is being actually designed, and is being actually, you know, given as an output to my user or not. It says there result changes in between project which doesn't communicate effectively to the developers, alright. It says that if my result keeps on changing between the project, alright, then it will not communicate effectively to my developers. So it says that when a particular result is received or achieved, the same after that another set of result is achieved. So between that two result, whether it is communicating properly with the, you know, the code, within the code or not. Certain features of user acceptance testing are, now let us see what are the features of user acceptance testing. It is preparing for change needs, alright. Preparing for change needs, yani if my particular user needs some changes to be there, alright. So we have to prepare them for that particular change, the need of the change, right. Then early start. Now we are supposed to start with our product development, alright. Once I have got my customer requirements, the needs, the changes that I need to have, you know, in my software, particular software maybe, then I have to start with it. Then use of usability testing procedure. Now what is use of usability testing procedure? It says that when I am about to, you know, give a usability testing procedure, that means if I have anything developed previously, then I can reuse it, or maybe if it is not developed, then I have to redevelop it, or maybe I have to develop it afresh, alright. So use of usability testing procedure. Then rule with shared management tool, alright. So you have to then scrutinize it with as a rule, as a procedure of a management tool, okay, according to that management tool, and developing fresh test cases. Now once you have done the entire development of the code, alright, maybe afresh, or maybe you have, you know, changed something inside it, then you have to develop fresh test cases, because now because there is some change or maybe redevelopment of the code, then in that case I need to of course test it once again. So we have to develop the fresh test cases. Let us see 3.3, which is process. Now when somebody tells you about process, usually we analyze is process is something that has certain steps, you know. For example, if somebody tells you to you know, process in the examination hall, right. So when you go to the examination hall, you find out your number where you are going to sit on a particular bench, right. You find out that your roll number is stuck there, or your enrollment number is actually pasted there on the table, on the bench. Then on that bench only you sit. After that you are given an answer booklet. You fill up that answer booklet, supervisor would come and stick your a barcode sticker, and after which you will be getting paper at the particular time only. So this is an entire process, alright. So Similarly, in my software testing also we have a process, all right, and user acceptance testing is of course a kind of testing, so it also has a process. Let us see what it is. Software testing relates to set of activities that are performed in order to ease the invention and or calculation of properties with one or more items under test. So it says that it is a set of activity, all right, which is actually used and it is performed to ease the calculation that is required, all right, the calculation that is required which of what, of one or more items that are under the testing, all right. It says that test cases are checked and analyzed to test following objectives. Now of course we know what are test cases, we have already done in the previous unit, right. So for every individual task a test case is generated, and for each test case we will be checking it and we will be analyzing whether it is meeting the actual thing that we had actually decided, what is the actual result and what was the expected result. Alright, so expected result is something which we thought that you know, at the end of the particular task I should get this output. If I am getting the same output, I would say my actual test and my expected test are equal, right. So in order to meet that we have following objectives. First is proper implementation. Of course, in order to pass any test case I have to have proper implementation. I need to, you know, implement it very properly, very precisely, very thoroughly, right. Then error identification. If any error turns up inside, you know, during my testing, right, then I have to find out those errors, I have to, you know, solve it out, all right. So we have to find out the errors. Then quality verification. Now anything that is tested you know, it is not always like I want a particular result only, it actually should be a qualitative one, all right, because nobody is going to look at the you know, end user is not going to look at what is the accuracy, I mean what is the result, right. He wants result to be highly accurate, all right, highly you know, performance effective, right. So in that case I need to check on the quality of my software, right. Now within the process it is found that test environment normally includes, within the process there are certain test environments, all right. This test environment or test cases usually includes what all things, just check. First is facilities, all right, what my particular my product is going to, you know, provide facility to my users, all right. Now all these facilities are something which is, you know, going to ease work of my user, or maybe they are going to be user friendly kind of, all right. So first is facilities. Second is hardware, all right, when my user is about to get some product, all right, what all hardware things it will need. For example, if you say you want to use WhatsApp, you cannot use it without a phone, a smartphone, right. This is, so that smartphone is a hardware that you are going to use for your WhatsApp, all right. So similarly for any testing, for any product, you need to have a hardware facilitated with all the tools, right. Then it says software. Software is nothing but all those management tools, a particular product that you have developed, of course, all right. Then firmware, all right. Firmware is saying that whenever you have a software implemented with a hardware, you need a firmware which will work as a middle layer agent, all right, to communicate my hardware with that software, all right. So firmware is a middleware. Then procedures are my methods, my methodologies, or my processes that I am going to implement while working on my particular software that I have developed, all right. Documentation, of course, documentation is one of the most important point, wherein I am whenever I code something, if I do not document it, I will not allow my end users to know what is there inside my software, all right. So documentation is the other thing. So all this should be included in my test environment, all right, starting from the facilities till my documentation. It says that the acceptance test suite will do all many times, as every test case may not be executed inside single test iteration. Sometimes, you know, you need a repetitive testing of certain task, all right. So in that repetitive testing of certain task, you might be requiring, you know, the same steps to be followed again and again, alright. So certain test cases would be repetitive one. This test suite runs with predefined acceptance test procedures. The test suite that you will be doing, alright, will have all the predefined acceptance testing procedures, alright, which instruct the testers about the type of data to be used or instruct for step by step process. Now that test suite will actually instruct my tester that what all is the step to perform that particular testing, alright. The procedure levied on in order to perform my that testing, alright, comes under this, and that needs to be followed with required result along with the execution. So it even says what should be the expected result, what is required after this testing, alright. So whatever is required after the testing should be given, you know, or should come out as an actual result, alright. So that is the point. Similarly, the result of successful test execution shows. Now what is the final output of the test execution? So it should be test cases should be executed with required data. Now whatever the data it was required, you know, my test cases should use those required data only. Then record of actual data, alright. Now what is the actual data that we have used, alright. So you need to have a record of that actual data. Actual and the expected result, as I said, right, before my testing I would have expected something in my mind that after execution of this particular code I should get this much result. So that comes to my expected result, alright, and there is an actual result which comes out after the execution, the actual execution of my software, right. So my actual result and my expected result should be there, both of it should be there, alright. Finalization of the test result. Now if my actual result that turned up is equal to my expected result, we usually say that we have passed the test case, right. If my actual result is not meeting my expected result, we usually say that our testing failed, alright. So finalization of the test results. The idea behind this is to show confidence with developed product that will meet functional and non-functional needs, alright. Now what is the idea behind this testing? It says that when I perform a testing, it actually shows that what all needs I have, alright, and whether all those needs are meeting or it is not meeting at the end, right. So my functional and non-functional needs should be, you know, already met when I perform the testing. After my testing I should be able to get all what I have required, functional or non-functional, whatever requirements I had should be, you know, fulfilled after my testing. So that is the only logical idea behind my testing process, right, the only idea. Now next topic is QUAT, which is called as quantified user acceptance testing, alright. Now what is quantified user acceptance testing? I would say it as QUAT, alright. User acceptance testing, that is UAT, additionally referred to as beta testing, application testing and end user testing. I said that it is going to be a kind of a beta testing or maybe an end user testing, or it is also referred as an acceptance testing. It is a testing in which the software is tested by the supposed audience. I said that what is beta testing? Beta testing is something that is tested outside my organization by the people who is not inside my organization. If I test my particular product is tested by the people who is residing inside the organization, then I call it as alpha testing, right. But beta testing is something where the targeted audience to whom I am going to present my product will be testing on it, alright. So then that is called as beta testing, and this particular user acceptance testing is same. It will be tested by the targeted audience, alright. The experiences of the first users are forwarded back to the developers, alright. When my user will be checking on my product, will be testing my product, their feedback whatsoever comes up, alright, will be forwarded to my developers team who have developed that code, who create the final changes before releasing the software commercially. Now whatever my users have tested, alright, they would be feeling that certain things, certain points are lacking, right, or they have not been, you know, been mentioned or not been delivered in the software. Then in that case my users will be telling up that this thing is missing in the software and we want it to be added, maybe a functionality, right. then in that case that particular point is passed on to my developers team, who will change that code, who will modify the code in order to meet the functionality that my user needed or my user demanded for. Alright, then in that case, after which the functionality, once it is incurred in my project, after that only it will be released for the commercial use. Now quantified user acceptance testing, what it is. Alright, just now before this slide, whatever we talked was all about UAT. Now what is QAT? Quantified user acceptance testing is nothing but the simplest way to quantify the deliverable, whether or not it is satisfying the necessities or not. Alright, now my customer, as a customer, they would have certain necessary needs. Right, they would have required certain features, certain characteristics, certain functionalities in the product. Right, then all those functionalities which they actually wanted is actually being fulfilled within my software or not is called as quantified user acceptance testing, or QUAT. Alright, so let us examine that when a teacher is taking a test, a teacher would think that my particular set of students should get 20 marks out of 25 marks, right. Now when the teacher start checking the paper, right, then he or she would come to know that yes, my particular students could score 18 marks or 17 marks. So it is, they are lagging behind by 2 or 3 marks, everybody, right. So it says that quantified user acceptance testing, that is quantity of my teacher's expectation, right, was not meeting to the expectations or the deliverables that were there from the users, that is my students, right. So that is how it checks. Now if my particular teacher wanted that everybody should get 20 marks at least, and everybody of them got 20 marks, then I can say QAT has passed. My teacher, whatever he thought, alright, whatever he expected, the same output he got from the students, then that is, I have passed the QAT, right. So similar is quantified user acceptance testing. Secondly, some people or end user does this testing by quantifying the software product based on the errors occurring during user acceptance testing. It says that some people or some end users does this testing by quantifying the software product, alright. They quantify the software product that they have delivered, and based on the errors occurring during user acceptance testing. So if you come while users are testing my product, if they encounter some error, right, then those errors also they count into the QUAT. Alright, if there are lot many errors, then that means the product is not sufficiently proper, right. So that is also counted into QUAT, right. Then next topic is software verification and validation. We have already actually seen what is V&V, that is verification and validation, alright, but this is just the repetition of the same topic. Now when you say verification and validation, I said essentially that whether we are building a right product, right, and whatever product we are building is rightly done, alright, and that product which we are making, alright, is actually meeting all the requirements or not, everything comes under verification and validation, right. Verification and validation in software is related to its code, whatever code you have done, alright, whatever code maybe as a developer you would have done comes under verification and validation. Before the testing of software, process of verifying and validating of software code needs to be taken care, we have to take care of it. Verification and validation are generic name given for checking the processes which ensures about software conforms to its specification, alright. Now whatever the specification my customers would have given, whether my software is meeting all those specifications or not, comes under verification and validation. It is related to more or less the requirement of customer demands for particular software product. As said, my specifications that my customer have given, alright, has given, all those are called as customer demand, alright. So all those demand are matching whatever software I am delivering, my customer is getting all those demands fulfilled within my software or not, comes under verification and validation. Verification deals with process of evaluating in between the work products of software development life cycle, which checks the position and direction of creation of a new project. So, verification is something which is done in between the the project development, which checks whether my particular software which I am going to build is properly done or it is not proper, it is proper, improper, whatever, right. Then validation on the other hand is also a process of finding and judging the final product in order to check whether software meets the required business specification. Now, validation is something which is checked with the specification of the customers, my customer demand, alright. Now, whatever my customer demand is, whether we have validated all those customer demand or not comes under validation, alright. Last for today's session is Greybox testing. I said Greybox testing before starting off it, that it is combination of my black box and white box testing. We have essentially seen what is black box and what is white box testing, but just for your revision I would tell that in black box testing we do not see the internal structure of my code, alright, my software, right. Here we only check the, we give some input and we check the output, alright, whether that output is meeting the expected result or not is something called as black box. While in white box we even check the internal structure of my program, we check the code of that, we check the functionalities, we check the cyclic complexity and all those things, alright, and that is called as white box testing. Now, mixture of both, that is without internal structure and with internal structure testing, is something called as Greybox testing. Greybox testing is a software testing method that results from mixture of black box and white box testing methods. It is seen that in case of black box testing, internal structure of item that gets tested is unknown to the tester, alright, just check in your book because it is given wrong, alright. So, it says that whenever you do black box testing, internal structure of the item which you are testing, you are unknown with the code of it, alright, whatsoever the code is, you are unknown of it, while in white box testing internal structure is known. So, in white box you actually know what is the internal structure of your code, of your product. The testing using Greybox shows that the internal structure is partially known, which gives access to internal data structures and algorithms with the idea to design test cases with testing at user or black box level. It says that when you undergo Greybox, alright, only few portion of your internal structure will be known to you, not the entire thing like what you have in white box, alright. So, unlike your white box testing where you know the entire thing of internal structure, here you will know only partial things of your internal structure, and based on those partial things of your internal structure, alright, you will be given access to certain internal data structure which will help you design the test cases that my user is going to use, and those test cases at user level are going to be black box level, I mean they will be blank what you have done, alright. Since the software program is like semi-transparent impression to the tester, so this type of software testing is known as Greybox testing, alright. It is a translucent kind. Now, what is translucent? Translucent is something where you cannot see the entire picture, but you get something is semi-transparent, right. Just like you have what do you say, that paper, when you draw, alright, you have a semi-transparent paper on which you exactly cannot see the drawing, but you can see the outline of that drawing, right. So, that particular butter paper or something kind which is a semi-transparent one, then that is called as Greybox testing, where you know certain things, but you don't know everything of the internal structure, alright, the internal code. It is noted that when codes for 2 units are studied for designing test cases where actual test gets carried out with exposed interfaces, then such testing procedure is called to be Greybox testing. When you do testing for 2 different units where you just understand that whatever those units are, alright, when they get integrated, you know only the integration part of it, then in that case we call it as Greybox testing, right. There are certain advantages. Let us see the advantages of Greybox testing. It allows tester to know about the functionality of application along with its architecture and data flow. So, here you come to know the architecture, data flow and the functionality of your application. It lowers the overhead of long drawn functional and non-functional types of testing cycles. All right, the the overhead cost that is incurred here for your functional and non-functional testing, all right, that is lowered down. It allows the developer to fix errors because of the ability of speeding up development cycle with complete rudimentary unit testing. All right, here you do unit testing, you even check 2 units together, right. So it actually helps users to fix errors very faster. All right, now that was all about Greybox testing, and in this session we saw was user acceptance testing, the steps of it. All right, we even saw what is the process for user acceptance testing. We saw quantified user acceptance testing, that is QUAT. We saw what is verification and validation for my software, and lastly we saw what was Greybox testing, which is mixture of my black box and white box, which is going to be a semi-transparent one, or you can say a translucent one, right. In the next session we will be looking at non-functional testing. All right, what is non-functional testing, what are its parameters and all, right, and we will be looking at software performance testing and lot testing. There are various kinds of lot testing available, all right, which will help me to analyze my software performance, all right, and testing artifacts. All right, so let us meet in the next session for the rest of the topics. Thank you.